again. It is time for Ask Andrew Live. I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky.
I'm weather anchor Peter Warner. I'm taller than you again today.
You are? How did that happen? I think I'm shrinking.
Yeah, I think you're shrinking.
I'm going to be 40 next year, and I think that's when gravity starts taking its toll, and it's
slowly bringing you down.
Yep.
I got my little box. But yeah, yesterday I was like, oh yeah, this is what it's normally like.
We're on the same level now. Well, you're a little bit taller, but yeah, darn gravity. Every time.
Gets you.
It's going to get you. Welcome into Ask Andrew Live. We're happy to have you along here. We have a lot to talk about today, so we had two really great questions we answered this week. We're going to talk about our flop of a severe weather chance for today, which I'm not mad about. I'm thankful we're still going to get the rain.
We're still getting plenty of rainfall, and we're already seeing some of it on the radar.
It's already coming up from the south, so that's some good news. But we have a new weather impact alert to tell you about this weekend.
This weekend?
Not for storms, though.
I'm not excited.
You're used to the temperature.
The temperature I like.
But it's the humidity that's going to be a problem.
I don't like the moisture.
Yeah, that's not going to be very nice at all this weekend. So we'll talk about that. If you're new here, welcome aboard. We do this every Wednesday right here on the A+ app at 9 a.m. sharp. If you have a question, we encourage you to send it in while we chat about our two questions this week and our little weather discussion. You can text that to 309-304-0888, 309-304-0888.
309-304-0888.
Yes, and of course, message and data rates apply. Check with your wireless provider for details. Always make sure you do that before you send us a text message. So we'll get to those coming up. If you're on the Facebook stream, you can do it in the comments section too. But the text message is preferred. Get used to that because eventually all of this meanders over to the A+ app and it may not be on Facebook anymore. So we just want you to get in that habit, that practice. And that number is not just for questions, by the way. If we have severe weather, you can text your pictures, your videos, all of that to that number.
Or if we have one of those really pretty sunsets too, I know we get some fantastic sunset pictures sent in to us.
Yeah, that number is wide open for you to send stuff in. So take advantage of that while it's there. We're going to get started with a little bit of a weather discussion, and then we're going to jump into the two questions for this week. We talked about river levels, why zero doesn't mean zero. On the river gauge.
That's always interesting.
Yeah, and then we had a great one that you kind of put together for Des Moines about fishing.
I did, yes.
And I said, you know what, I'm going to borrow that for today because it was a great question.
Yes.
And it's relevant to the weather that we've got going on right now. Speaking of right now, we've got storms.
We do.
Track. Yes, but we don't have anything severe to track in terms of those storms. So we've canceled our weather impact alert because of this that's coming up from the south. Macomb actually had a really decent thunderstorm move through earlier. Now, none of this is warned, by the way. And just, heavy downpour, lightning. This is moving into Knoxville, south of Galesburg there. That's going to head for Stark County, and eventually that will get into Princeton here, too. We are not expecting any of this to intensify further than what you're seeing here. But if you're just curious as to when this is going to be arriving in those areas, there's the tracker. It is going to just graze Kewanee, just on the south side of town.
Yes.
At about 9:40. Princeton, right after the 10 o'clock hour, and then into LaSalle, Peru. We're expecting heavy rain, a lot of lightning. That's about it. Further west of that, you got a nice little shield of rain that's been fairly consistent all morning long. Still think that gets in here to the Quad Cities about 10 o'clock or so. About another hour.
Yeah, they're moving pretty slow too, which is good.
Yeah, and that's good for rainfall amounts. We're going to be able to soak this up. We're going to maximize the moisture that's in the air. And this is another reason, though, and I'm going to put the regional on here, as to why we've canceled the weather impact alert. Remember we talked about this scenario yesterday. Peter mentioned where that low pressure system is going to track. And look where it's tracking this morning. Much, much farther east than what some of the computer guidance was telling us the day before and even the day before that. We're moving it just north of St. Louis, and it's going to move into central Illinois. In order to get severe weather, you want to be on the far eastern side of that area of low pressure.
And typically south of it too, because that's where you see the warm. I guess further to the east of it, you get the warm front, then further to the south, you get that cold front too.
Exactly.
And you need that kind of lifting mechanism for a lot of these stronger storms to develop.
Yeah, we would want to see this go into Iowa. More specifically, we want to see it go into northeast Iowa and southwest Wisconsin. That's not going to happen. The low is going to go right overhead just about later today. And look at what's going on with the low itself. We have all of this rain, all of this thick cloud cover which is covering most of the state of Iowa. You know what that means? We're not going to develop storm energy needed to get storms going here. Where you've got the clearing, though, right through here, look at all that sunshine, temperatures building into the upper 70s already this morning. That's where you're going to see your severe weather.
Isn't that where we're seeing the storm zones too?
It is, exactly, yep, and I'll take you right to those. And we'll do a little adjusting of the map here so you can see, again, it's the entire state, literally the entire state of Indiana in a level 3 out of 5 risk today.
Busy day for our friends out there.
Yep, Channel 13, our sister station there. Yep. WTHR is going to be very, very busy. Meanwhile, I don't think we're going to be busy at all here. I mean, this is a true de-escalation of the storm zones.
It's continued to shift just a little bit more east every single day.
Yeah.
Just about like 50 miles or so.
Yeah.
At least the last couple of days, it's kind of slowly shifted, jumped and jumped and jumped.
Yesterday, we only had parts of Knox County, Bureau County, and I think Stark County was in the 2 out of 5, and Lee County too. Now, hardly any of those counties are anymore, and you have this one. Now, the one, you got to think about space here. When the Storm Prediction Center makes these outlooks, they can't put these lines extremely close together very easily, so there's a little bit of padding on that one. I think personally it's a little bit too far northwest. I would shove that further to the southeast. I think I'd even shove the 2 out of 5 a little further southeast too.
I agree.
But we're not expecting anything huge here in terms of that severe weather threat. So we've canceled that weather impact alert. We're thankful for that. We get the rain instead, and that's fine. If you look at Future Track here, which I think it's going to save, so you're going to be able to see how this evolves here. There you see it's a lot of rain here throughout the early afternoon. Even here 3:30, which is usually our hottest part of the day.
Clouds.
It's still cloudy. And it's still raining for some of you. So we're just not going to build in that moisture and the needed storm energy to get here. And then that goes out of here. It gets out of here. And we're going to be quiet tonight. We're going to be quiet tomorrow. Now, one thing we're going to have to watch, we're going to develop what we call this ring of fire pattern as the heat builds in. And there's going to be occasional storm clusters that will ride those. One of them is going to try oh so hard to sneak in here on Friday morning. And right now it looks like it's after sunrise. So this may clip our northernmost hometowns on Friday morning. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to maybe break the heat down a little bit on Friday. Not necessarily. What these clusters love to do is they fall apart very close to us. And you know what they do when they fall apart? They spit even more moisture into the air, so the humidity is even worse by the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. So Friday, we don't have that as a weather impact alert day right now, but if the humidity goes up even more than we're expecting, we're probably going to have to label that one too. But Friday will certainly be hot and humid. And then another storm cluster late Friday night to Saturday morning, we'll see where that goes. I think that's probably going to travel more into Milwaukee and Chicago, but it is something we're going to have to keep an eye on. No doubt this is going to be the first heat wave of the year. And the definition of a heat wave is very loose. There's no set in stone, on paper definition of a heat wave. Generally speaking, for meteorologists, it's a period of a couple to a few days or more of hotter than normal temperatures.
Yes.
And we're going to have that.
Yes.
No doubt about it. This is just going to be awful in terms of the feeling. So here's the numbers. And yeah, Peter, you're used to, the top number, but not the humidity.
Yeah, I like the top number. That's fine. For me, like at this time of year, I'd be comfortable in that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, let's go book at tea time because it's dry, humid heat that I'm used to. Though, look at those heat indexes, and the dew points are going to be what, in the almost 70s for some of us?
Likely be in the 70s,
yeah.
And that's the kind of moisture that you step outside and it just takes your breath away. It's hard to breathe. Your body is working harder because it's having to cool itself down or attempt to cool itself down. So you got to be smart about this. If you have outdoor plans Saturday, Sunday, Monday, even into Tuesday, I would say Friday as well, you got to make sure you're staying hydrated.
Yes.
It's very, very easy to get dehydrated quickly. That happened to me when I was in New York City several years ago. Walking around all day, I wasn't keeping up on water. It was in the 90s. I got very lightheaded, and it came up quick. We're talking in a matter of minutes, and you feel very faint-like.
Yes.
So I want to encourage folks to keep drinking the water as we get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, even into Tuesday. Even if you're not going to be outside for long periods of time, it's still smart to keep hydrated.
Yes, and something with this too is with that moisture, you sweat a lot more, so that you lose even more of that kind of moisture your body is holding when you sweat.
Yes. Yep.
That's something to keep in mind too, because when you have dew points that high, you're like immediately perspirating. So that I guess adds another issue to the equation on this.
Yeah, and you don't even have to move most times. Just existing, you're going to start sweating like crazy in this kind of weather through the weekend. So we have 3 alert days right now, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. This may get extended beyond Monday. It really depends on when the heat dome is going to break down. Right now, the signs are that will happen Tuesday, Wednesday with showers and storms. But I was looking at data this morning, and I've got it up ahead of me here. One of the European models that we look at has this extreme heat lasting all the way through next Friday. That's one solution. So we kind of try to take the middle of the road here between different models. But if that happens, we could realistically be spending all of next week under a weather impact alert because of the heat. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Ooh.
It's all going to depend on what the storm clusters do and how soon they come in.
Yes.
Will there be some severe weather opportunities with that? Yes. They're hard to pick out this far in advance, though, because like we saw today, it's the smaller scale processes that we're working with. So we're going to want to stay tuned to that. So there's the weather synopsis part. Now we can go into the question. And Peter, you put this together, so I'm going to actually let you explain this one.
Oh, yeah.
And you're a fisherman yourself.
I love fishing.
You fish a heck of a lot more than I do. So
I do.
I'll let you take this one away.
This one's very fun. Yeah, talking about fishing, what are the best conditions for fishing? 'Cause it's actually a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
Some days you would think are a great day to fish. Sometimes might not be the best, which is interesting. For example, like a very hot, sunny, humid day, that's okay, but that's actually not the best. You would think, oh, because of all that sunshine, right? It's the best day to fish.
Yeah.
No, actually the fish are a little bit more susceptible to kind of recognizing your lures or bait or hooks in those, in your kind of lures and your bait. Yeah, when you're fishing on a sunny day, because they can see the visibility is better. Yeah, the bait fish are a little bit more active, but they also don't like high pressure, which is something you get a lot on those sunny days.
That's true. You have dry weather, usually high pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't like that. What they like the best is that low pressure. And when we get low pressure, we a lot of times get storms. And stormy days are actually the best fishing, right before the storm, as you can see here. Sorry, I was just talking about.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah. See, you're an expert on this, so I want you to take it away.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is weather and fishing before the storm. So this is kind of your stormy day fishing. This is the best fishing you're going to have, and you want to do it right before the storm. You want to make sure you're safe, though.
Yes.
Give yourself about 30 minutes to an hour before that storm hits, where you start to kind of get your stuff packed up and hit the car. But before the storm, you have that pressure rapidly dropping. Typically, we see those low pressures move in with these big storms. As that pressure rapidly drops, the fish get much more active. Bait fish actually get forced up into those areas that are a little bit more shallow. So that means the larger fish most of us are trying to catch are a little bit more active and trying to kind of go after them. And that cloud cover builds as well. You aren't seeing super thick clouds yet because the storm hasn't moved through, but because you have those lighter clouds, they still get enough sunshine where they're active, but they're not going to recognize, say, a fake plastic worm that you're using as well.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
Yeah, so definitely want to fish before the storm. During the storm, obviously, that's a big no-no, especially if there's thunder and lightning, holding a metal rod outside.
Oh, gosh. No, you don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that. Do not recommend fishing during the storm. Obviously, it's dangerous. The fish are going to go deep because the water is going to get kind of moving, and they don't obviously want to be near the surface. When they're seeing that after the storm, it's okay. But you typically don't see the best fishing after a storm because what happens when you get a lot of rainfall?
Stuff is going to move. The water's moving. It probably mixes it up.
Yeah, and the runoff too, because you know how a lot of our lakes and rivers here, they kind of get fed into, and they're kind of basins almost for all the rainfall we get.
Right.
Think about all that dirt it's going to pick up. That water's going to get kind of muddied, and visibility is not going to be great for the fish. And also, typically, you start to see pressure rise again after that low moves through. The fish are a little bit more quiet then as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know. Stormy day fishing. If I wasn't here, I would be fishing right before it. But once that storm starts, you got to get out of there.
I'm going to say, today, right now, actually, probably a good time to do that before the rain moves. Man.
Warmth, just a nice light, little cloudy day. Just enough cloud cover. Very interesting.
Very. And I have a question for you because, you know, I'm not a professional fisherman. Sometimes just go put one in if I'm really bored. What is a bait fish?
Bait fish, so it's like those little shiners, those little tiny ones. Sometimes not a bluegill, for example. You know, those little tiny ones, like chubs, like little tiny chubs, or I call them shiners. Minnows? Minnows,
okay.
Yeah. See, I've always called them shiners for some reason growing up. But minnows, yeah, those little tiny ones that you kind of see bait and pool together in one group, and then you start to see the big fish jump after. Like what you see in the ocean ones, you still see that kind of scenario pop up sometimes in local lakes and rivers.
I had no idea. I'm like, I was reading this and I was like, bait fish. What is that? At first I thought it was something you buy and maybe you put on your pole or something, but no, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can actually buy bait fish and kind of hook them up.
Oh, wow.
That's what those big bait buckets are filled with typically.
I wondered.
Yeah.
I just never checked them out. I'm just used to the old worm thing or the other stuff you put on the end of it. Yeah. Cheese bait.
Cheese bait.
Everybody loves the smell of cheese bait.
Hot dogs are actually great for catfish.
My grandpa used hot dogs once. I saw that and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
They work pretty well. There's a lot of weird things you can use to fish. I've seen people use tinfoil and they've caught bass before.
Tinfoil?
Tinfoil, because of the reflectivity.
Shiny.
It looks like a little shiner.
I think it's a shiny fish.
Yeah.
Wow. There you have it.
A lot that goes into it.
You got your fishing tips here on a Wednesday morning.
And
I
it's
love
National
it.
Fishing Day today.
That's right, it is. We saw that on the National Day list. And speaking of fish, it's a cleaner aquarium day too. So
Really?
make sure your fish in your aquarium have a clean
Fish all
space.
around here for asking.
That's our theme today is fish. Fish, fish, fish. And it's not even Lent. Lent's over.
No.
I love that though. Peter, you did a great job putting that together. So that was our question we had this morning. The other question we had on Monday, and this is one I had done before, but this was the first time that I got this question in relation to the depth of the river. The person had sent in, I went out fishing the other day. I looked at the NOAA website, the River Gauge website, to see what the river level was. It said it was like 6 or 7 feet.
Oh.
But he went on his depth finder, and the depth finder said it was 15 feet deep. So why is there a difference in those two numbers? And a lot of folks don't realize how we measure the river levels. 0 does not mean the bottom of the river channel. That 0 level, 0 feet, was determined hundreds of years ago in most cases. So remember how much the river changes. And Peter, you probably know about this too. You get all this silt that comes in.
Yep.
We've had the Army Corps of Engineers come in through the Mississippi River. They've dredged it numerous times over the last several decades.
Yeah.
So the bottom of that river channel is always constantly changing. It's never the same. So because of that, when they established these numbers, they had to put a baseline 0. Because if you start moving that 0, well, guess what? All your past river data doesn't matter anymore because you've changed the scale. That would be like me saying today's going to be the hottest day of the year, but tomorrow I'm going to change the hottest day of the year scale to be 20 degrees cooler.
That wouldn't make
fair.
sense.
Yeah.
No.
You want to keep that scale consistent. You don't want to change it because we've already determined not only the historic data, but we know using those levels what's going to flood at 10 feet, what's going to flood at 20 feet. If we change that, nobody's going to know what's going to flood.
That's a whole lot of math that
Yeah.
we got to do again.
That
doesn't
is a
sound
lot.
fun.
It's a lot of work. It's not worth it. That's why a few years ago when I went to Memphis and did the story about the Mississippi River, the record low water levels, that's why the Mississippi River in Memphis was at a negative river stage. It was like negative 7 feet for a river
Whoa,
stage.
in Memphis.
In
That's where you
Memphis.
start to see it kind of spread out a little bit more and get a little wider too.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's why that 0 was predetermined many, many years ago. And yeah, you can have negative river levels because of that. So hopefully that makes sense. And quite an explainer. I know it sounds a little complicated, but to me it makes sense. You don't want to mess with the numbers.
No.
We need to have that historic data and we need to have numbers that are consistent in order for us to forecast and also forecast impacts consistently.
You kind of need a baseline.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, there's going to be confusion.
Yep, there's mass chaos. And we have enough chaos in model land as it is. We don't need more chaos on this.
No, we
that's
do
for
not.
sure. But both were great topics to cover this week. And I tell you, the majority of my topics, if they aren't submitted to me, I actually pull them from your questions here on the Ask Andrew live stream because if I go research them and do them during the morning show, it gives me a little more time to give you a more in-depth explanation than what we can oftentimes do here with our limited time. So keep sending them in.
Yes.
Keep them
also,
coming.
What's great is if we don't have graphics already made, we can make those graphics. Mainly he
Yeah.
does. He does all the graphics.
And you're good. I tell you what, you're becoming the Stutsky Picasso #2 around here. You're doing some fantastic work with graphics as well. It allows me to sleep a little better at night knowing that there's another person on the team that can do some really awesome graphics. So
Everyone can do fantastic.
everybody does some great work. Yes, a protege. Yes.
I try my best.
Oh my goodness.
It's hard to live up to this guy though.
I don't know about that. We'll see. We'll get some questions now. We have enough time. We're 20 minutes past the top of the hour, so we can pull them on in.
Yeah. Riley was just saying thank you because you're her favorite weekend.
Oh, Riley, you are such a sweetheart. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, send your questions in. You can text them to 309-304-0888. Yeah, text those in right now or put them in the Facebook chat if you're watching us.
Yep.
But
I can check too the text messaging just in case our digital folks might be busy. That happens sometimes. They have a lot to do back there, so we can
if there's
pull
something
it up
breaking too, that kind of
can
make it busy.
The newsroom can be a very busy place, though right now it's a very cold place. It's chilly in there.
It's chilly in here today too.
Oh my goodness.
I noticed. Which is nice with all the heat that we have outside. So what's our high today? Right around
I'm going mid-70s.
Mid-70s.
Yeah, 'cause
That's
of all
true,
the
I guess.
clouds.
Yeah, because all the clouds we're seeing, it's a little bit better.
Mid-80s tomorrow, though.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, because I saw some models were throwing 80s out yesterday. I was like,
Yeah. We'll see about that. There's a couple text questions in here, it looks like. This one asking, with all the stormy weather seemingly more often this year, when and if do you think a derecho will occur in the future? Conditions favorable for one? Thank you. Well, we want to stress that derechos they're impossible to predict in the future. They really, really are. And I want to use, I swore I was going to put this, I didn't get time this week, but I think what I'll do is I'll put it together for next week for this Ask Andrew Live. The timeline of the derecho that we got several years ago in August on how quickly that ramped up, to show you just how difficult it is to forecast those things. Because I think a lot of folks don't understand that it is indeed nearly impossible to forecast a derecho in advance. And that derecho we had, the one that everybody remembers, is example number one.
Yes.
Right there on why it's impossible.
Threat level 1 out of 5 that day.
We were. We started with a 1 out of 5 on the SPC scale. And then we ramped up to a 4.
I was looking at that the other day, actually, last week.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have to go back over that again next week. Because again, the more real world examples we give you, the more you can understand how complex these systems are. We'll pull up an old graphic for you here really quickly, just to show you the frequency of derechos. We do expect one every year in the Quad Cities. Do we get one every year? No, but if you look at the average, that's about one every year. Further west in Iowa, it's about one every 2 years. So is it likely we're going to see one this year? Probably.
There's a chance.
The odds are in our favor. Is it going to be a repeat of what we saw August several years ago? Probably not.
And we saw the one last year, too.
And we had the one last year, but notice the one last year didn't have 120 plus mile an hour winds.
No, that was only around, I think, 60, 70.
So there are different types of derechos. It's not always going to be a repeat of what we had back then. So there's your derecho frequency. Yes, we had one last year. We had one the year before it. But also notice in the gray boxes, there are years where we haven't had any. And there's more than a handful of those.
Plenty of them there.
In there.
The frequency has increased a little bit if you look at the trends. We are starting to see them a little bit more frequently, right on almost that yearly basis to most likely almost every other year we'll see one.
Yep, very typical.
Something important is we can't forecast them, and also they can't be called a derecho until the event is over and studied by the National Weather Service.
It has to be classified as such. We can't do it ahead of time. So those are the, if you weed out the gray boxes, there you see some of the derechos that we've had. We had actually 2 years, 2014 and 2024, where we've had 2. And actually in 2014, I remember that was what, 15 years ago, roughly, we had 2 derechos in the same day. We had one come in late in the morning, early afternoon, and then we had another one in the evening.
Are you serious?
And I was actually in the Quad Cities when that happened.
2014.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That was a year that I will never forget. But yeah, when it comes to derechos, again, we cannot forecast them ahead of time. It is after the fact. And I'll do a deeper dive into that next week if my poor brain can remember to do that. Because that was quite an event that escalated very, very quickly.
Yes, and if you've seen any forecasts or anything that say we're having a derecho,
yes,
that's not true. You can't forecast a derecho, and keep in mind that a lot of those are kind of clickbaity. Let's just say that.
They are very clickbaity. They're going to have a lot of pink, a lot of red, and a very big blob across probably 6 different states.
8 states sometimes.
Somewhere in this region, there's going to be a derecho, late June, late July, whatever. It's all clickbait.
It's all clickbait.
And for us, it's rage bait, because we rage about it.
A little bit. Pushes our buttons, because it's impossible to forecast.
It does.
We can barely, not barely, but like you can't get exact accuracy 14 days out. How can you expect to call the derecho in a month and a half?
Exactly.
So,
Not happening.
yes.
No matter how good they are. You could have the best meteorologists in the world, and they are located at the Storm Prediction Center for the most part. And even they can be caught off guard. So it happens.
Exactly.
Yeah. We had another question, it looks like coming via text too. You've discussed warm and cold core systems before. My question is, what core system is worse for producing long track tornadoes?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What do you think it is?
It's warm core, typically, right?
Depends on the
I
situation.
guess it's the
Hurricane.
moisture you can get with some
Yep.
of the warm cores in the south. You can get some of those really long track ones.
Oh, yeah.
But also the cold core systems in Oklahoma with those dry lines that also
Exactly.
develop some of those stronger ones too. But I think further south is where you get
You hit the nail right on the head.
kind of those two scenarios, I guess.
Yeah, there's different parts of the world, so we have different types of systems. You have your warm core, which is usually your hurricane, which does produce long track tornadoes, by the way. Think of how fast that hurricane is moving and those storms with it
Yes.
are moving. You can absolutely get those. But like Peter was telling with the dry line setup, you're usually involving that cold core system with the colder, more dense air coming down, giving you more lift. You've got a lot more spin there. And yeah, that's the kind of system you look for tornadoes. Now, I will say we're entering that period where the tornado threat generally tends to decrease.
Decrease a little bit.
We're not seeing those strong jet streams come in. We're not seeing the intrusions of cooler air come in as intense as they are in May. That doesn't mean we're not going to see any more tornadoes this summer, but it does mean that the likelihood of seeing those long track, strong, damaging tornadoes is kind of shrinking a little bit.
It goes down a little bit as we get through the year.
Yeah.
Because think about the temperatures even further to our north, where we kind of can get those lows develop, or even out near Colorado as they dip over the Rockies, meet up with that colder air. You don't see that as frequently anymore because everyone's starting to hit the warming period of the year.
Yep, that's right. It all kind of evens itself out. You need those big differences in temperature to get those big tornadoes.
Yes.
And this year, pretty much the whole nation is usually warm as we get deeper into June and July, so it gets harder to do that.
Yeah, great question.
Good question, though. I love it. These are some really, really great questions. We can check one more time, see if there's any on the socials. Any other, do a last call here. I think we got about 3 minutes left.
Facebook's pretty quiet today, unless my thing's glitching. But
Mine has been doing that too. We have, we do Craig on Wednesdays for the 11th,
Yep.
and we use Facebook Live for that. And there are some times where I have to close it out and I got to go back in because the questions just don't update. That's a Facebook thing. So they got to get that straightened
is.
out. That's not a Channel 8 thing, but
oh, there. See,
did they pop up?
now they popped up. I'm so sorry, guys. This is what, the third time this has happened to us?
Facebook, I tell you.
Facebook.
You love it, you hate it,
Okay,
right?
let's see if we can push through these really quick. Oh, Billy was the cold core systems.
Oh, great question, Billy.
Great, Billy.
Rock
As
on.
always. As always. It was.
Billy's a rock star. We expect some good questions from him.
Yes.
Wink, wink.
Linnell was wondering, do you guys think that the rain from the south will reach Elizabeth? They need it there.
Absolutely. So we can go back to the regional really quickly, and you can kind of get an idea of how this thing is going to evolve, this low, as it moves north. Again, we've got a really solid area of rain here, and that has not been decreasing. If anything, it's increasing in coverage, maybe not so much intensity. But yeah, that's a pretty solid batch that's going to be coming your way, and we can put the tracker on there. We're thinking probably Joe Davis County just before the noon hour. Looking good.
Not bad at all. Mm-hmm. We need it.
Guess who's not watering today? Guess who also isn't mowing today?
You. This guy.
Double-edged sword.
It is. But that's okay.
That's all right. It's always tomorrow.
Yes. At least it's cheaper to not have to water.
That's true. Saves on your water bill.
It's always a good thing. Tracy was wondering, is it going to get hot after the rain? It's raining in Monmouth and temp is 69. Today, no.
Not today. No.
This weekend, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sadly.
Weekend's a different story for sure.
Hit the pool, drink your water.
Yes. All the above.
All the above. Bev is saying they got over 2 inches of rain last night in Elizabeth. 2 inches of rain in Elizabeth.
I'd believe it. Those were some slow-moving storms.
They're creeping.
Somebody from Clinton said they got 2 inches of rain last night, too, with that storm that was
Wow.
creeping along.
I didn't get any at my apartment.
I think I got a couple of drops, and that was it in Geneseo.
Zilch.
We're cursed.
Yeah. Sad.
It's all right.
Anyways,
We'll break it.
now I think we actually got through everything.
We get
assuming
through
my
everything?
app worked.
Okay.
Assuming.
Look at that, right on time, too. 15 seconds left on the clock.
Close her
We
out.
made it. We made it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Great questions, as always. We'll see you right back here next week. For weather anchor Peter Warner, I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky. Have a great Wednesday, Quad Cities.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 8 Plus app everywhere you stream.